This is your Wall Street wake-up call. Global stocks plunging this morning after UK citizens voted to leave the European Union. Let's get straight to London now. That's where Dan Hansen joins me, the UK economist with Bloomberg Intelligence. So Dan, it's great to have you here. Give us your initial reaction to this historic day. I mean, it's safe to say the markets weren't exactly expecting this turnout.
No. I mean, it's really shocking news, to be honest with you. Late last night we were expecting, or markets were expecting, a Remain vote. They'd almost priced out a lot of the Brexit risk. And overnight, things really took a turn. And we find ourselves this morning, this historic decision. And, in time, we're gonna leave the European Union.
And talk about how central banks can react to this. Does it have to be a group effort? Are we going to see the BOE, the ECB, the BOJ, and the Fed sort of band together?
I think so. I mean, the Bank of England certainly have come out this morning and essentially said that they stand behind the UK financial system. They've pledged liquidity to banks. And just to sort of stave off that very near-term risk, ensure that banks can continue to operate and provide credit to the wider economy. I mean, I think it depends a lot as well on how the shock ends up dissipating across the global economy. I think the Fed, ECB will stand ready. But I think, the real main area where this is focused, it's going to be a domestic shock for the UK. I don't think globally it's going to have a huge impact on the global economy.
Although we're seeing the yen gain a lot of steam this morning, up 4% against the dollar. I mean, that's devastating for the Bank of Japan. How do you think they're going to react to all this?
Well, Japan's not necessarily my sort of area of expertise, but I think, they're going to have a look at that, and Japan, they've got a lot of issues in terms of making these monetary policy trade-offs. They've got a lot to think about, and it's similar to it's the flip side of what the Bank of England are thinking about as well. Now we're going to have this huge fall off in demand, most likely because of a protracted period of uncertainty, and sterling's fallen. So you've got this bank sitting there, and they've got inflation likely to rise in time.
Yeah.
And you've got weak demand, and you've got this classic monetary policy trade-off that the Bank of England are facing.
And would you compare this Brexit fallout to what we saw after the collapse of Lehman Brothers in 2008?
Oh, I think it's quite easy to make that comparison. I don't think it's going to be like that. I mean, as I said earlier, Mark Carney has come out and essentially stood behind and stands behind the UK financial sector, and that's really important to pledge that liquidity. That staves off the financial stability risk, at least initially. And as I said, I think this is, it's going to be much more focused, the shock in the UK, rather than across the global economy. It's possible that there'll be ripples, but I think the UK is really going to feel the brunt of it.
Mark Carney, of course, is the head of the BOE. What does all this mean for the euro? I mean, what other countries might be next to leave the EU?
Well, that's a really good question. I think it's hard to tell. I mean, the real issue with Europe is migration. That's what really has driven the debate in the UK, and it also drives the debate across the European Union. I think the EU will be in a position, when we go in for negotiations with the EU, they will really want to drive a hard bargain with us, because they won't want to create this world where the UK leaves, they give the UK a relatively decent deal, and the UK economy performs pretty well outside the EU. That obviously creates this real risk that others will leave. Other countries will want to wait and see what happens to the UK, obviously. If this turns out to be a big shock, it's gonna, they're not gonna want to leave, I don't think.
Well, we'll be watching, and of course the pound is now down 6% against the dollar, so just incredible stuff. All right, Dan Hansen from Bloomberg Intelligence, thanks so much for joining us.
No problem. Thank you.
I'm Scott Gamm, and you're watching The Street.